Boy, am I not. Hey there, everybody. Good afternoon. It's Charlie here with Red Summit RF. And today is a special, every 3 or 4 months, Tank Radio and I do a collaboration on our fifth Sunday time slot. So we're doing a special presentation. We have special guest Orv W6BI with us today, and he is doing he knows all about mesh and Arden, and so we'll talk to him about that. So welcome, Frank.
Hey, what is going on? It is good to be on your stream again. We did this a couple of months ago.
Yep. So just to, as a reminder, I have first and third Sunday, and Frank has second and fourth
Second and
Sunday.
fourth Sunday.
And then every once in a while, we get this fifth Sunday. It's a little odd, so we'll just do something here together. So welcome everybody in chat, and let's have a good show tonight. Make sure you put your comments or your questions for Orv in the comments, and so let's get going here. Orv, tell us before we get going. Tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're at, and maybe some of your background.
Oh gosh, I'm in Simi Valley, California, which is in Ventura County, which is, I don't know, 40 miles west of downtown LA. And our claim to fame is we're not in LA County, 10 miles north of Malibu. Well, let's see, about me. I've been a ham radio operator since like forever. Seriously.
Yeah. Back in
Been
the old days.
digital my whole career, 4 years in CW, a dozen years in RIDI, a few years in PACTOR. Got sucked up in the early packet radio days, then did some PSK 31 and QRT for a bit, and then been doing this ham radio networking since about 2015, I think.
Okay.
A lot of fun.
What about your background as far as your work? Does it meld at all with what you're doing with ham radio?
It helps. For a long time, I was in IT administration. In the last 7 years, I got out of admin and did a technical job as a Linux system administrator. But I had been using Linux for 20 years before that, so it was not a big transfer. The average ham doesn't need to know Linux, but you'll find that when you start using a Raspberry Pi in the shack, you kind of get sucked into it a little bit. And that's not a bad thing.
Which distros are your favorite?
I was just going to ask that.
Oh, for years, well, originally it was Slackware, but after a couple of years, it was Red Hat Linux, which was their desktop Linux. Then I went to Fedora, did that for 15 years or so, but started using Raspberry Pis 4 or 5 years ago for mountaintop stuff. And I thought, well, it's Debian based, so I might as well shift everything over. So I shifted all of our stuff, the shack server, my workstation, and my wife's workstation over to Kubuntu, because I prefer KDE Plasma as my user interface. I do run one Windows workstation because they haven't moved WinLink over to Linux yet. It's getting there, but not yet.
Yeah, cool. I use Ubuntu. It's kind of the only thing I know. I mean, they're all about the same, but there's a little flavor, right?
It's like cars. They all have 4 wheels and a transmission. It's just where are the controls?
The Ubuntu has really made it super easy to install, and they made the installer super slick. Like installing Ubuntu from scratch is more easier than Windows.
Almost all of the main distros are that way. I mean, a guy gave me an old laptop, one of the hardened laptops, and he said it's got Windows on it. Well, I went to power it up and the hard drive died, so I slapped an SSD in it and downloaded Kubuntu and had it running 10 minutes later.
Nice.
Piece of cake.
Yeah, I have a bunch of two really old laptops. I mean, like memory is like not even a gig. It's like five something or other, and it'll barely run it.
No, that's a doorstop. Sorry, Charlie.
Yeah, the days are over. All right, well, we're here to talk about mesh networks and Arden, but let's talk, instead of diving into Arden first, let's just talk generally about mesh networks, what they really are, and maybe what some of the more common uses are, and the value of them. So if you could kind of explain that, or if it'd be great.
Well, I can. obviously mesh networking says every node where knows where every other node is, and if your best path fails, you can find an alternate path. I was telling you guys before we went on the air that it turns out that the routing code for Arden didn't work all that well, so we've been trying to de-emphasize mesh networking. But also in the last year, they've made some fixes to the code. You could call them band-aids, but they keep the routing software from falling over dead if it tries to figure out multiple routes. So it works a lot better now. Um,
So, look, I'm going to reiterate a point we were talking backstage earlier, but these fine gentlemen didn't get a chance to hear. Originally, when I jumped on board on Arden 3, 4, 5 years ago, it was meant to be as any network, any node on the network is equally as important to any other node. You want to de-emphasize super nodes where your backbone haulers are, because if those super nodes went down, your whole network kind of went down, or it's localized to your small little area. And you're saying that's kind of not the point anymore, or that's not the desired
well,
intention anymore?
I can't speak for everybody, but locally, yeah, we've never, well, in Southern California, um, we have a lot of interlocking valleys.
Mhm.
Two ground level sites aren't line of sight. You've got to go up and over the hill, so you might as
Mhm.
well put a backbone node up there.
Mhm.
What we've started to do is um, set up contingency internet tunnels. If an RF link goes down, we can tunnel through it until the link is fixed.
Yeah.
And that way, obviously, if the whole internet's down, you're SOL. But we have bigger problems
Well,
then.
that's what the point
Yeah.
is. And not every node in the network needs internet. Only one in the whole network needs to supply internet. Then everyone in the node network has the internet, or at least the ones you're connected to, right?
Yeah, the internet on ham radio. Um,
Yeah.
that's a bit
That
controversial.
let me back us up just a minute, just for the
Mhm.
benefit of those who are listening, who may have not have any background in what mesh is. We've talked a lot about a node, and so can we talk a little bit more in depth about what a node is? Some people may not even know what a node is.
Want a
Good point.
picture?
Sure.
Yes.
Can I share my screen?
Yes, you can.
How do I do it?
There's a plus button that says present, so you click on that, and
That's too
then
easy.
And it really
Share
made it easy,
screen.
didn't they?
Share screen. Let's see. Select window or screen. Oh gosh, let me see. Uh,
You could choose a program or choose
yeah.
one of your entire screens.
How's that? Is that the entire screen? Yep, it is.
that's
Yep.
the wrong.
Sweet.
Let me see. Let me show you some portable nodes, since this is the whole gist.
Mhm.
Um, Up at the tippy top, you can see an air grid, and Dave KM6FQ likes to go out and support video from aid stations along marathon runs or bike rides. And in this particular case, he had to get up over the building, so he jury rigged this extension off of his tripod. Um, for those of you who don't know, you can see the flat dish grid up at the top. The radio is in there also. A radio, a little Linux computer, RAM, ROM, flash memory. Um,
Can you zoom
uh,
in on that for us if you
I
can?
can't, but
Okay.
I have some closer shots.
Yeah, all right.
But you'll see down at the bottom, he's got solar power, and also, I can't see it here, but he's got a camera someplace, and he streams video. He, in this case, streamed it back to me, and I streamed it out to YouTube, so the sponsors of the race could see this aid station.
Hmm, that's cool.
We're going the wrong direction here. Hang on. Let me fix this. Yeah, there we go. Here's a typical portable station. The plastic box down there is now a digital version of your Go box. The battery, some other integrated electronics, but the radio is still up in the square box there, which has in this case, a panel antenna, the little computer, and two microwave transceivers, because it's dual polarity, believe it or not.
Mhm.
It pumps out two streams simultaneously on the same channel, one vertically polarized and one horizontally polarized. So on one channel, you get double the throughput of something like an old bullet. Um, if you're if you're in an HOA neighborhood, they have to let you put up satellite dishes. And using a setup like this is a old DirecTV dish. And at the feed point, the LNA is gone, and you can see this MikroTik light dish feed 5 pointing at it, 5 gigahertz. You get about 23 dB gain here. And there's this cheap little $8 universal adapter. And nobody will ever notice you're not pointed at a synchronous
So what
satellite.
bands are you working then?
5 gigahertz.
5 gigahertz?
Yeah.
Is that really similar to what the HD DirecTV were using, or is just kind of been close enough?
Close enough. The dishes are not resonant. They're
Hmm.
just a reflector. The higher the frequency you pump into the feed point, the higher the gain and narrow the beam width you get. They have a light dish feed 2 here that you can put in here, but you'll get half the gain.
Hmm.
Yeah. Okay, so let me just recap and for those again, for the benefit of those who may not know, and make sure I have this right. So you have various types of radios up high, or in this case, just that's feeding in here, and all these radios have pretty much transmit in the gigahertz at some point, in the microwave bands somewhere, and they also have well, that's basically it, right? They just you have a radio that communicates via the gigahertz portion of the ham radio bands, and
Well, yes, Arden supports 4 different ham bands:
okay,
900, 2.4, 3, and 5. 900, we only have a 5 megahertz wide channel, and it's really noisy, at least in my area, because of all of the smart gas meters, water meters, power meters. Very noisy. Longer haul, lower speed, and the gear is getting really scarce. So it's supported, but very few people use it now. 2.4 we talked about, but there's only one channel usable for Arden, one Part 97 channel. The radios about 5 years ago gained the ability to move out of the Part 15 channels down into the Part 97 ham radio channels right next to it. Much quieter there.
yeah,
So 3 gigahertz actually is not a Part 15 channel. There's no Part 15 in the US.
okay.
So it was all ours. That's the good news. The bad news is, since there's no Part 15, you have to buy European gear. It's a lot more expensive, and it's gotten really scarce and hard to get. And the FCC, like we were talking about earlier, took half the band away from us earlier this year.
So we still
So
have data allocations on the 3 gigahertz band, then we can
it's
utilize.
it's all data. Yeah, there's
Okay.
50 megahertz of it. Um, so we use the Ubiquity Nanostation M3s and Rocket M3s there, and it works real well because it's quieter.
Yeah.
Then most of it's on 5 gigahertz, 5.8 gigahertz, like you said, Charlie.
Yeah. So a great point is that all this is digital. So for just a real basic beginner, you wouldn't be using phone or even PSK. This is completely different. This is actually what you mentioned earlier, internet of sorts, right? In a
It's
way,
it's
ham radio internet, right?
ham radio internet without the internet. Yes, exactly. It's the same modulation that your home Wi-Fi uses.
Right.
Mhm.
Um, Arden had to tweak it a little bit. Uh, your Wi-Fi on your phone won't talk to another phone on Wi-Fi. They're both clients, um, and 2 access points won't talk to each other. You need a client and a server. They had to put it into ad hoc mode where any node can talk to any node, and there's some compromises with that, but that's how it works. It's good
So would you?
stuff.
So I don't know. Maybe let me venture a statement here. Would you say that a mesh network, when it comes to ham radio, is a semi-private internet of sorts?
Well, yeah, it's supposed to be isolated from the internet, but yeah, all of the nodes on the network talk to each other over ham radios. I mean, they're microwave radios, but they're running on ham radio frequencies.
Right, and they communicate with IP, right? IP addresses,
Hmm. Yeah,
and that's
IP version 4.
right, and that's the Arden aspect of it, right? That's what Arden is.
Well,
No, that's not.
no,
Arden makes that capable, right?
it does. The main features of the Arden code, when you overwrite the stock code with their code, um, Let you move down into the Part 97 channels, much quieter. Um, and you guys know that networking can be fairly complicated.
Oh
Well,
yeah.
they rolled in a domain name server there and a DHCP server and route discovery. And all those three put together makes it easier, much easier to get this thing going. You don't need a lot of network knowledge. The DHCP server, you plug your computer into it and it gets an IP address from the network. Domain name server, if you want to talk to W6BI-QTH-SRV, HTTP, blah, 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 the network knows where it is and it brings up the web page on my Raspberry Pi. Well, actually, now it's a little Dell Linux Debian computer in the shack.
Yeah.
So they don't have to worry about setting up a DNS server, a DHCP server, or BGP or some other weird routing protocol. So that's their claim to fame. It was meant to be able to set up in an emergency, throw it up, and make a connection. It's grown beyond that a lot, but that was the origin, and they're still oriented towards emergency data. That's what Arden is: amateur radio emergency data network.
So what do people who access the Arden mesh networks, what through the nodes, what do they use to connect to the nodes, and what are what data is shared?
Well, any old computer that can get a DHCP address, Windows, Linux, Raspberry Pi, says, give me an IP address, and poof, here it goes. It doesn't know that it's not on the internet. It's just on some other network. As far as things you can do pretty much anything you can do on the internet, subject to the Part 97 regulations. You can't run a business, that usual stuff. One of the things I'm starting to preach real hard is WinLink over Arden.
Oh, nice.
Because you can run data, email, and messages hella fast over Arden, even compared to like Vara FM. I found that the limitation was the WinLink Express. It couldn't pump the data out as fast as the network could take it. That's one. We have a voice net every Wednesday night on the Arden network using a voice server, a VoIP server. And anywhere between 4 and 18 of us will get together. You can chat, you can turn video on, you can share files. It's a net. It just doesn't use ham radio protocols and
For lack of
frequencies.
a better description, it's kind of like getting on Teams or
Yeah,
what is
pretty
it?
much. Or yeah, mostly voice.
Yeah.
Video doesn't add a lot to a social net, but
Yeah.
and it uses a lot of data. Other things we do here in Southern California, we're subject to brush fires, and we have putting pan-tilt zoom cameras out on the high sites, and you can stream data that way. Since it's on a ham radio network, average non-hams can't see it, but what we do is we stream it to YouTube and publish the URL.
Oh, that's
So
nice.
off of the ham network onto the internet, and one of the local guys has a large Twitter following because he's big into emergency services, and he'll ask me for the URL. I'll give it to him, and he'll publish it, and poof, there are hundreds of people watching the channel on YouTube.
Yeah. I also heard about what's it called? You can get a little server and run asterisk and use digital phones, right? Is that something or?
Yeah, I have two phones on I have two two-line VoIP phones going to 4 VoIP PBXs on the network locally.
Right.
That's
So you could.
because, well, they're all trunked together, but I have an extension on one so I can test them.
Yeah.
Nice.
So you could actually be sitting at your desk, and then through the mesh network, you could receive a phone call from somebody.
Oh, it rings 2 or 3 times a day. It's mostly one guy, but it rings.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And the PBX has a conference bridge, call waiting. I see a little red light flashing that says I have voicemail.
And do you get any telemarketer calls?
No. Here, let me show you.
Even better. I'm doing this.
Here, you can see them.
Yep. That's awesome.
Yeah, those phones are just they're just on the mesh, right? But then but the mesh you say has there's a tunnel or something with the mesh where it can get into the outside world, right?
Well, here's the deal. Back after World War II, the very paranoid FCC said, "Thou shalt not deliberately obscure the content of a ham radio message." Well, if you read that on its face, it says you can't use HTTPS or SSH. And I'm not saying it's a raging discussion, but different ham radio groups range anywhere from, "Oh my God, don't allow internet access," to the other side was, it's no big deal.
Yeah.
I can say that when I was first starting to get into this, I had this very same discussion with a league official. And he told me that in unofficial discussions with the FCC about this topic, the FCC said, "Don't worry about it." Now, it would be nice if we had an FCC that paid more attention to ham radio these days. All would have to do is strike that out, because they allow encryption on the internet. Why not on a ham radio network? I mean,
Mhm.
Right. Yep.
I
Yep.
mean, heck, even WhatsApp's encrypted end to end. They let that happen. So
Right.
anyway, that's my rant about that. But don't worry about it too much. We run web servers, and a lot of the network switches. We have the user interface out on the internet, so we can manage them, and they're HTTPS. I don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
One other
Interesting.
question on devices that can connect to the node. Have you mentioned that cell phones don't, but have you had an opportunity to test that and see if you can get a cell phone to connect?
Well, what you can do is you take an old standard wireless access point and you plug it into the mesh network, so it gets a mesh IP address. So your cell phone, you connect to that plain old part 15, it gets a mesh network IP address. And if you got it set up right, he can call anybody on the VoIP PBX
Through your cell phone.
Hmm.
over the mesh network.
If your
Nice.
mesh network has internet access, can I do Wi-Fi calling then?
I don't know. I I'm spread too thin. I can't,
You can't
there's
answer
so
all
many
questions.
so many things about this I don't
So
understand.
so the one we talked about it a couple times here. Always had issues connecting devices into the network. I have a USB little micro router I bought a number of years ago, and I put Arden on it, and I used that as my connection device. So I plugged that into my computer via USB, and it gets a IP address and does networking protocols that way. And then that was my access point to the network.
Right.
My M2 here, however, I couldn't really get on the network. I know it has a secondary port there, but when I plugged in there, I don't think I got an IP address or anything really usable off of it. I think it was used so that you can connect two or three of these and have, a make it an omnidirectional network port. So you put one here, you put one here, and you put one here, and
Or
using the same Ethernet ports, you don't have to run three wires up.
yeah,
Um,
I think they say a max of two, but yeah, you got the
yeah,
idea. And what people will do. I'll get back to your. Oh, let me before I forget. You said you had trouble doing
connecting to so
right,
this was going. My plan was to have this on the house.
right.
But I couldn't really easily get, connect to it through my internet or my home network here
Nope.
that and get to even get into it. So in order
Well,
to work on it, I had to come down and run wires, and it wasn't easy.
you can do that. Um, it's got PoE,
Mhm.
power over Ethernet.
Mhm. Mhm.
So you run one cable up there, gives it power, and its network comes back down, right?
Mhm.
But that network runs a protocol called DTD, device to device. It has to talk to another node, DTD.
Okay.
Um, Additionally, if you have more than one node, you have more than one DHCP server. You have to make sure you turn all off but one.
Mhm.
Otherwise, you have no idea, who you're going to connect to. We're
Hmm.
getting a little in the weeds here, Charlie.
Let me just pause real quick. There's a regular here, Richie's Radio Room. He has a great YouTube channel, but he just donated $3 to our cause, which is to continue to perpetuate ham radio in everybody's life. So thank you so much, Richie. I appreciate that.
Mhm. We are getting into a little of the weeds, but I think this is kind of important. So, if you don't mind teasing it out a little longer. So, you said this device has a DHCP, and whatever it connects to, it wants to assign an IP address. So how would I?
No, it
So,
assigns the IP addresses.
but yeah, this one wants to assign
Yes.
the IP addresses. So if I plugged it into my router, then there's a conflict. My router wants to do DHCP, this wants to do DHCP, and it just does bad things.
Let me
Uh-huh.
find another thing that might help. Let me find it first before we go off getting even farther into the weeds.
I live in the weeds. You're talking to another programmer here. So I could
Okay.
go deep into it. Go ahead.
Share screen. Share screen. Window or screen. Here we go. I've almost got this. Okay. So because all of the Arden devices run in the 10.0.0. whatever network space, IP address space, and your home probably is 192.168 something.
Or unless you're crazy like me, I have 10.10.0s.
Well, you're kind of screwed. Um, uh, the nodes IP addresses are self-assigned. They're based on the MAC address. The point being, you can't change them. So what you do is you buy a little MikroTik 5-port router, like shown here, put the Arden code on it, and if you have an outside node, you run it on port 5 and turn on, and because the MikroTik can run PoE power up the cable, and they both speak DTD, they know about each other. Then you connect it to your home network by plugging it into port 1. Then anything on ports 2, 3, or 4 knows about both how to get to the internet and how to get to the mesh network. This is this is the second thing anybody getting into mesh network buys, and they buy it almost immediately. So you might as well just buy it with your outside access point. So anyway,
is that a connection between the cell phone? Oh, because it's also running Wi-Fi. I see.
These are optional, yeah. And by the way, this can be a Wi-Fi access point or a Wi-Fi access client if you're traveling.
So this MikroTik access point, it's not running DHCP or anything. It's allowing the node.
Oh yeah.
And it's still doing it too?
Yeah. Well, the point being, DHCP requests don't travel over DTD.
Okay. I was unaware of DTD protocol. So.
Yeah, it's actually VLAN 2.
All right. Interesting.
All right.
How's that for getting into the weeds?
Very good.
I love it because that was a question I had for the longest time, and me and Jason Ham Radio 2.0 stumbled upon this several times, and we never really got through it. And I love that you answered it. Now I just got to run another router. I need a picture of my electronics closet up there. There's like 6 Ethernet ports, and they're all running and doing things. So it's just another device to have in that hot closet.
So here's Don. He says the MikroTik I bought would not work on channel -2.
With the Arden code on it, that is the only channel it will work on. If you bought the right HAP AC Lite, you'd have to check on the Arden Mesh site. There's a list of supported device matrices, and it has the exact part number there. If you click on it, it'll take you to Amazon where you could buy it. But yeah, nobody I know of is having. I haven't heard of a lot of troubles with that.
Let me while we're here, then while you were talking about the website, let's just take a look at that. Let me share my screen or
ardenmesh.org.
Yeah, right here, right?
That's it.
Because I wanted to go to the map here real quick, and maybe you can speak to it as I go. But right here, there's actually, yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'll make my comments about the map.
It says click here to view the map, and then down here it says these download files. But I'm just going to click the map here, and it doesn't look like there's many. There you go. Yeah, look at that.
Yeah.
So these are all the different nodes, and there's a I guess a whatever it is, a guide here that has each of the nodes and what one is where. I'm going to zoom into where I live in the Phoenix area. And so here's kind of what we're looking at in my local area. So my first question for you, and this as it regards to this map and Arden, is and I'm sure that the guests have the people watching now and later may have the same question. Um, is this What's the community like? Is this something I can just do on my own, or is there some type of a coordinated effort, or what? Can you kind of work us through that one?
So here's the deal with that map. Contributions to that map are voluntary. A lot of guys don't bother to put their nodes on there. So it's a partial representation. Additionally, taking a node off or changing a node on that map, that particular Arden map, is arduous. It's hard.
Wow.
There is a mesh map of that area that's live, and I don't have a link to it, but I have a screenshot of it someplace. But let me give you, yeah, see, these are people that have added their nodes to this map sometime in the last 7 or 8 years, but they may or may not be there anymore. Let me do yet another.
So it sounds like anybody can really participate in this in some form, right?
Well, they can put a, I guess
they can put a node up anytime, right? It doesn't matter. Use the firmware and set up their own nodes. But is there some type of a coordinated effort where you have bigger mesh networks?
Yeah, let me show you.
Cool.
Let's see, which window do I want to share? Remember this decision. Oh, stupid Firefox.
I agree with those sentiments.
Where the heck is it? Well, we'll just have to do it this way. Oh, I know why. Okay. Here's the Southern California Mesh Network. Can you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
This is a live map. There's a mapping program in the area here that goes out and crawls the network about once an hour. In each node, there is used to be a text file, now it's a JSON file, of all the vital data of the node. Hardware version, software version, all of the stations it can connect to directly, the quality of those links, et cetera, et cetera. The mapper downloads them into a database, and if they put the latitude and longitude in there, it puts them out on this map. So you can see the same orange for 5 gig, purple for 2, blue for 3, and you can see some gray ones. Those are Arden HAP AC lights in somebody's shack, and they have the 2 radios turned off. So anyway, and you can see this is what's been added in the last year up here in Central California. Here, let me zoom in just for grins. And with this map, let's see, here's my town. Let's see, is this it? Yeah. Oh, this is the one, the police department here in town. There's the host name, latitude and longitude, SSID. It's running on 5 gig channel 170, bandwidth 10. And if you click on links, this is everything it talks to. There's one link that's a DTD. That's a wired Ethernet connection to a HAP AC light in the EOC. And this is the RF link going up to the local hilltop.
EOC meaning Emergency Operations Center at the
yes,
police
thank you. So the ones on the mountains are obviously mountaintop nodes, and down on the lower people's sites. Things we do with this, as long as I've got your attention. Yeah, these are some of the cameras we have in Ventura County. Most of them now are PTZs, and most of them do patrols. Oh, there's Glenn's Jeep. He's home. And this is a secure. He wanted a camera in his driveway, and I said, okay, to put it on the network. And he said, yeah, sure. And there's a this is up at a water tank site on the west end of town. It's in a small building, and this is a camera up on the pole looking down at it, which has come in handy. One night I saw the door open and a light shining out. The door had blown open, so we had to fix that. Additionally, the guys in the Central California coast decided to put up cameras. This is Paso Robles, lots of wineries out here. Um, this is Clark Valley, if you know, Morro Bay and Morro Rock are someplace under the fog here. Um, Pismo Beach, this is on a hill, very pricey homes up here looking down on Pismo Beach. This is Lompoc Valley. It's east of there some. And this is the pan-tilt zoom camera up on the same site, and it patrols. I have no idea which direction this is looking. It looks like, I don't know, maybe north. And then I have individual Raspberry Pi sites, like this one you just saw, but it tells me that inside the building it's 67 degrees, outside it's 72. Ignore
That's
the power
amazing.
failure. Huh?
That's amazing. That's cool.
It's
Mhm.
just a Raspberry Pi with a DAC on top of it. It only took me 5 years of grinding hard labor to learn. There's two battery stacks in there, one for a standalone repeater for the disaster services workers for the city. And this SMRA repeater is a VHF, UHF battery, and I vampire the voltage off to run all the mesh gear. But this is running on a Raspberry Pi. And here's another one, another pan tilt zoom. This Simi Valley is a true valley, and here's the pass going over into the San Fernando Valley. We've seen fires come over here more than once. Oh, well, I'm talking about that. Anyway, and here's looking the other direction. And we've watched car crashes down here, brush fires, watched helicopters do water drops, stuff like that. Let me do one more thing real quick. Where is it? It was it's a Woolsey fire. Anyway, yeah, this is a sort of thing. This is a sort of thing we streamed out onto the internet. This is a Woolsey fire a couple years ago.
That's cool.
Simi Valley is just barely over the county line from LA County. It's to the west. When the Santa Susana winds blow, it gets hot and dry. And Woolsey Canyon's about 3 screens off to the left here, and the fire started there about 1 o'clock one day. And by about 4 or 5 hours later, it was here in the southwest corner of Simi. The camera's on the north edge of Simi, and it's a pan tilt zoom. The fire department staged at the bottom of the hill. The fire made a run towards them. They fought it off. The wind turned. It went up over the hill, down south into the town of Thousand Oaks, took out hundreds of buildings, continued south up over the hills again to Malibu, more hundreds of buildings, and pretty much stopped at the ocean's edge. We were able to stream this to YouTube for about a day and a half, and off and on hundreds of people watched it. So in this area, those pan tilt zoom cameras are important.
Yeah.
Thomas Fire. I don't know if I have.
Well, for the person who is new to ham radio, or even somebody who's been in ham radio a while and hasn't heard of doesn't know much about mesh, it sounds like you could do it on your own, but your network would be not very robust. A few nodes, maybe with a friend or whatever, and that would be about it, right?
Here's the deal. Make friends with your local repeater owners. Convince them it's a good idea to have a network between repeater sites. And oh, by the way, let's put a user access point there so you could get to it and manage your repeaters over a ham radio network.
Mm-hmm.
If you're on flat land with lots of trees, good luck getting a network going. This stuff is strictly line of sight.
Yeah.
You can go a long ways from hilltop to hilltop, but it's line of sight, no trees.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody wanted to get involved, then what would you say that you search out somebody who's already been doing it then, or I mean, look for a club in your area or what?
Ham club, probably the ham club.
Ham club. Set up an account on the Arden Mesh site, Arden Ham Radio site. There are regional forums per state. Sometimes we have 4 or 5 for California, Southern California, Bay Area, and read up on what's going on there. And if you don't see anybody from your area, say, hey, I want to get started. What's in my area? And somebody will pop up and say, well, there's a node 4 miles from you. You're in luck. Or your SOL, you got to set up a tunnel to the internet. By the way, that Arden, the HAP AC light running Arden, if somebody's in an RF black hole, that's how they get on the internet initially. You just set up a tunnel client on there, the software's in there, and you tunnel to some other ham who's got one, and he'll set up a tunnel server. And you get on and see the network and all the utilities or the services. It's not RF, but it's how you get on until there is RF.
Yeah. So Lionel says, streaming to YouTube. Can someone put your YouTube channel up?
Right now it's just my personal Orv Beach YouTube channel. You can go look at it. There's some, he keeps all the videos. There's the Woolsey Fire, the Thomas Fire, and a couple smaller ones. They stay there. I do have a dedicated webcam channel, but they're getting ready to give you handles. I got the email from them. I'm going to set up a Ventura County ham cam or something like that. And will stream all of them to there. It's on my to-do list.
Okay, I got it here. Let me just show people real quick so we can get that answered. So here it is right here, just Orv Beach right there.
Yeah. See the second one there, the second video? Yeah.
Yeah.
Click on that.
I didn't set it up for audio, but do we need audio?
Nope.
Okay.
Oh, 1544. No, never mind that one. Never mind.
Okay.
No. Do I have that anywhere? I can show you a video I took from there that's on YouTube. I got the video, the Falcon 9 launch from Vandenberg the other day.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Maybe we can catch that in just a minute. Let's get a few more questions answered here. This is a comment. The EOC, Emergency Operations Center, lets us use their facilities with repeaters and Arden nodes. That's interesting.
Good.
And then it says, so we have repeaters on a lot of water towers and stuff.
Yep. Elevation is your friend, guys. The taller, the better, and the clearer the view, the better.
Cool.
Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, I just had to shut my blinds.
No, that was me as muted. I muted myself sneezing, and I think unmute myself. If we're looking to start or getting a couple of nodes for ourselves, what hardware do you recommend? Is there a list of hardware on the website?
There's a list of recommended hardware on the Arden Mesh site. Can you put that back up, Charlie? You were there earlier.
That
website.
Yeah, hold on.
Let me walk you through it. It's useful.
Which one was it? I think it's
ardenmesh.org.
Well, I think let me got to make sure that I got. Yeah, we go. Yep.
Okay.
Ooh, that micros. That's the one I have.
There you go. Hover over software. The tab. Supported platform matrix. Okay. Scroll down. Okay. Now, it's sorted by manufacturer. That top section is MikroTik. Below that is Ubiquiti. And then they got, keep going down. Yeah, TP-Link, they make some good gear. And GL9 iNet, they made that little router that I think you had, Frank.
USB 150.
Yeah, which they don't make anymore. Yeah. Okay, scroll back up to the... Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Scroll back down to the bottom, Charlie. See the different colors?
Mm-hmm.
Green, stable. Light green is maybe. There's software for it they'll run. They don't recommend it for new deployments for two reasons. One, they only have 32 megs of RAM or only 8 megs of flash. And in spite of their best efforts to trim the software down, it keeps growing. You know how that is. And it's getting a little, the last major update made it a little easier to maintain those nodes, but they're on the eventual hit list. Don, remind me to talk about that. The other one is non-MIMO devices. I talked about dual polarization. That's MIMO, multiple input, multiple output. Scroll up to the top. Okay. Oh, there you go. Down to the Ubiquiti. You notice a lot of those are light green.
Why is my M2 light green? I like my M2.
Well, the earlier M2s, XMs, only had 32 megs of RAM.
Mm-hmm.
The newer XWs, and it's hard to tell which one's which, You bring it up in the stock software and it'll tell you.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of these weren't MIMO. They're what they call SISO. A bullet has an N connector on it, one output, one polarity. And when you got one polarity transmitting to two polarities, it can receive it. But when the two polarities are transmitting to the one polarity, you get half the power in one and half the power of the other. So you're 3 dB down. So you're at a loss. So it's not quite like water and oil, but they don't mix well.
Mm-hmm.
If you
So
got
I have
anything
an XM,
32
XM.
megs,
Yeah.
yeah,
So I'm the light green.
well, you are. You can put it up in a low traffic area. If you can get the software to load, you're okay. In areas like hilltops where there's a lot of WISPs, wireless internet operators, they're
Mm-hmm.
apt to have a lot of 5 gig energy. So get something with a little more gain. The one I'm using, recommending currently, scroll up to the top, Charlie. Not that far. MikroTik stuff. See the line that says SXT? Go all
Mm-hmm.
the way to the right and click on one of the 5ND or 5ND HPs. Yeah, there you go. There you go. Okay, so this is 5 gig like your NanoStation, Frank, but the CPU in your NanoStation is 400 megs and this one's 650. It has a lot more RAM, and the beam width in your NanoStation is 45 degrees and this is 20, 25, something like that. What's this puppy cost? 70 bucks, big deal. I'm recommending these instead of NanoStations now. Um, there's one small gotcha, it isn't a big gotcha. What you get is suitable for strapping on the side of on the leg of a tower or on a pole, but there's no elevation adjustment. There's a cheapy plastic thing you can buy for $3.99 if you can find them that will allow it to go on a pole if you need elevation or
Mm-hmm.
declination. I recommend those. What the guys buy now, let's see, MikroTik. Go to LHG under MikroTik, second line down, LHP XL, up. Yeah, go all the way over to the 5 gig. This is what a lot of people are buying now, the XL. The price has gone up some. They like it for portable because it's very light and very little wind resistance. You can see the grid is
Mm-hmm.
just a mesh. They work very well. Um,
A mesh for a
oh,
mesh.
yeah, it actually is. Um,
So when I started this, before Arden days, it was ham mesh.
Broadband Hamnet.
Yeah. You had to match hardware. Is that not the case anymore? So I go to
They,
my local club and they're like, "Oh, we're using all Ubiquity nodes. Do I need to go and buy a Ubiquity node?"
nope, you can use anything on the list and it'll talk to anything else on this list.
Oh, that's quite nice. And how about firmware matching? That was also a big thing. You had to have the same major firmware updates.
No, no. However, to be honest, some of the software that's 2 or 3 years old was pretty crappy. Um, in fact, if you're getting into it, they have what they call a production release, but the development lately has become supercharged.
Hmm.
So I load the latest nightly build on everything. They keep adding new features and fixing little bugs. I go with the nightly builds. And they
Okay.
aren't, the build process runs nightly, but if nobody has submitted a patch and approved it, nothing will get built. So you might not see a nightly build for a week, but that's what they call them. I run that on, I manage, I don't know, about 30 nodes. And whenever I come in one I haven't refreshed for a few weeks, I'll give it the latest nightly build.
Is there self-propagating updates? So I just need to load one node with the latest word, or you got to go to every one?
Yeah, they've talked about automating some ground level script that will do that, but nobody's demonstrated anything yet.
Okay.
See,
Okay. Well, those.
the Arden resources are pretty limited. They have to focus on improving the main software.
Mm-hmm.
People want them to write applications. They say, no, you go write them. And so we got Mesh Chat and some others, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Well, you
Yeah.
just eliminated the biggest hurdles that were in the way when I initially started mesh networks. Is once you had to find someone to match the hardware, and then you had to match the firmware minor version, and if someone updated something, you had to get all the buy-ins from everybody. But now it's just, lack of a better word, almost plug and play.
Plus, over-the-air updates.
Over the air updates.
Oh yeah,
That's nice.
Ooh,
I've updated nodes on mountaintops 150 miles away
nice.
without ever having to get my butt out of my chair.
So
That's
you just
amazing.
you go to it via its name inside the network, and then you log into it, then you just push the update.
Yep, it reboots, and I used to say
Very.
with a little luck, but it's become real stable.
Hmm. I you're lighting my fire again, and I wanna do more. Just I was so close to getting my local area club interested in Arden, and then the big scary thing happened where we all locked down,
Yeah, it
and they
really put a crimp in
completely
things. Yeah.
dropped the
Well,
ball, and I don't haven't really been back personally, but
get one of those little Microtech Hap AC lights and get Arden on
mhm,
it. Start playing with it. That'll tell you you can plug your nano station into it and learn how to turn the PoE on and off, and
mhm, mhm.
upgrade them remotely and without
No,
ever getting
I'm
anything outside the house.
thoroughly aware of a lot of this. About once a year, I get on top of the house and I turn on the art and put the latest firmware on it, and I turn it on and just watch the page refresh. I wait for 2 minutes and it says nothing, and I turn another cardinal, and then I wait for another couple of
Well,
minutes and never
what
connected.
is that, 2 gig or 5?
Two. I think it's can do both.
Nope,
No,
nano stations can't.
I
So
don't
with
remember.
so here's the deal with um, the 2 gig. The only usable channel is what we call -2.
Mhm.
It's two down from one through whatever the public. So you can put it on -2 and do your scans. But on 5 gigs, we have, I don't know, 30 different channels. So you'd have to do that 30 different times.
Oof.
But no, you do a Wi-Fi scan and it goes through all of the channels and lists what it hears
Oh,
on 5 gigs.
only on 5.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, there's only one channel on 2. You,
Okay. Fair point.
Here's a
I
comment
love it.
here. Last I looked, there was a lot of call for developer to work on hardware that is available to buy. The manufacturers seem to keep finding ways to prevent new firmware.
um, we haven't experienced that yet. Ubiquity a couple years ago blocked people from uploading third-party firmware via their UI, the web interface. But it turns out if you hold the reset button down and power it up and wait a few minutes, it goes into TFTP, and you can TFTP, trivial file transfer protocol, anything up into it, into the guts, and it'll reboot into
Well,
that code.
that's kinda like a nice hardware fallback, you
It is.
know,
It
and I
is.
I
You
have
can
bricked
load pretty much anything that'll run on it.
I bricked a router or 2 trying to put, the ham mesh on it.
Oh yeah, well that's pretty much in the past now. If you hold the reset button down and the lights start blinking, um, Ubiquity blinks in a different pattern than
Mhm.
MikroTik, but you know what to look for. You'll release the reset and you upload the file and wait a few minutes, and then it goes over to the standard unconfigured Arden interface, and you're golden.
I
Do
I
anything you
got
want from
2
there.
videos on reflashing Arden, and one was, "Alright, I bricked the device.
Uh,
Let's how to recover
doesn't
it."
happen anymore.
Yeah.
I don't think I've bricked one in 4 or 5 years.
So
That Don
we're
says that
about
too.
yeah. Go ahead.
Don
Great.
says that too. He can't brick a device.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Don made a comment about not being able to get hardware. True. Supply chain is one big issue. Also, 802.11n, which is the protocol we use, Arden uses, is fairly old. They're doing 802.11ac, now 802.11ax, yada, yada, yada. Well, that means the developers are bringing out new models that do all of everything, 802.11a, b, g, n, and they're adding AC to it, but you need a new driver. And that's what's taking time for the Ubiquity or the Arden folks to come up to speed on that. Additionally, they're ramping down the production of the stuff that's only 802.11n because why not build the new stuff? So it's getting hard to find. Over and above supply chain problems, at least Ubiquity, we suspect they're ramping down production of that older gear. A lot of it's appearing on eBay, though.
There you
So
go.
you get what you pay for. I mean, the stuff I've got a few things off eBay, but I haven't heard anybody complain about having issues with it, other than the plastic gets a little yellow from being outside for years.
All right. Well, we only have 4 minutes left, so probably just enough time to wrap things up and do final thoughts. Orv, man, we just got started, didn't we?
We did. Trust me, I could talk for 8 hours on this. And your ears would bleed.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
we could start talking about programming and how is it doing it and why the drivers and that stuff I find interesting.
Yes, into the weeds.
Yeah. Well, so we appreciate you coming on, Orv, and spending a little bit of time with us. Frank, what do we have coming up? Is Ham Radio 2.0 coming on here after us?
Ham Radio 2.0 is coming up on the top of the hour. I saw a couple of comments saying Ria's Ham Shack's coming up also this week or tonight, but I'm not seeing a live stream posted. But
Okay.
she sometimes hold on, posts them kind of late.
Yeah.
There it is. I just found it. It's now on her site. So kind of night of streamings. And
Yeah.
Don, C++ for the win. You know.
Yeah.
And that's about it. I can bring up Monday night schedule if you want.
Sure.
I got a short video for you guys if you have like 30 seconds.
Yeah, let's
Go for it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Real quick, share screen. Share screen.
Make sure you click on, if it needs audio, make sure you click the little button that says, or the little check box that says
It
allow
doesn't.
audio. Okay.
Oh, this is that same stupid one. Hang on. Never mind. Anyway, you could see the Falcon 9 clear the Yagi and
Yeah,
go over here.
that would have been interesting to see.
I'll show it some other time.
That'd be
Okay.
beautiful. That's it. Monday night schedule is not filled out yet. A lot of people jump in there last minute.
Yeah.
So it's still going to be an awesome Monday Night Ham Radio. Watch my Twitter account for the official playlist.
Or if any departing comments that you want, maybe something that there's anything we didn't cover that you really think we should.
If you like ham radio and like computers, this is the great conjunction of them. It's a lot of fun. And if you use WinLink heavily, that's number one reason to get going a mesh network, even between you and the local post office, even if it's point to point. Go for it.
Okay.
And
cool.
anytime you guys want me to come on again, I'm happy to do it.
Absolutely. Thank you. That's awesome.
Sure thing.
All right. And then for me, coming up next week, we have a guest on our show. And so we really appreciate Yorv and Frank. Appreciate you as well, buddy.
No problem. I love coming on here. And next time on the 5th Friday, you're coming to my channel, right?
That's right. That's exactly right. All right. We're going to end it here. Thanks, everybody, for in the chat and watching later. And come on back and visit us again and visit Tank Radio as well. And if you ever run into Orv, say hi to him. All right, everybody. Bye-bye.